Hey everybody, I'm gonna walk you through the assignments for tomorrow. It's like super late right now, but I didn't have another time to do it. So I'm gonna try to go through as quickly as possible and get you caught up on essentially what's going on and what I'm gonna look for tomorrow for your work. All right, so let me just share my screen and then we'll go from there. So I'm using Zoom to record. So I'm not really uh, too familiar with this. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. So I have a bunch of things open, and so I'm just going to share my whole screen. The first thing that you're going to need to do is just like normal. You're going to go in and do your week 5 discussion. And the prompt is right here, as you can see. It says reflect on what we talked about last week about the conflict in the colonies, the rising tensions in Boston, and tensions throughout the Northeast. You remember we talked about, we started last week and we looked at the Boston Massacre. Then on Wednesday, you should have looked at the Boston Tea Party on your own. And then we ended the week on Friday talking about the shot heard around the world, the first shots of the American Revolution. And so these tensions boiled over in April 1775 when both sides learned about weapons and supplies in Concord. Remember, we talked about the governor coming out that way and kind of hearing about these supplies, and then spies on the other side heard about them as well. And that's kind of where our two groups met. And this led to fighting. So based on what you know, what do you think the battle, why do you think the Battle of Lexington and Concord was important? All right, so you would go ahead and answer that question there. And it's in your blue folder, 5.1 week 5 discussion. So if you're going to follow along with the video and do everything as I do it, go ahead and pause it. And then I'm going to move on after that. So go ahead and pause now. Okay, welcome back. So let's go ahead and go through it. Like I said, I'm just going to go through real quick this whole slide, or all these slides. There's a little bit of information I want to share with you. So same unit, same chapter. And here's our agenda for what you should be doing today. We're going to have a learning target and essential question. We're going to speak a little bit about I'm going to speak a little bit about the Second Continental Congress. Last week we talked about the First Continental Congress. I'm going to mention a little bit about that. Paine's Common Sense, which is a pamphlet that came out during this time that kind of educated the masses about the problems with listening to a king. And then independence is declared. And what does that mean? And then the assignment for today is about the Revolutionary War battles. So all of the things that I'm going to talk about essentially before that are all political, and then the battles are happening at the same time. You're going to see what I mean. Essential question is the same. The learning target is different. I will examine multiple primary and secondary sources to gather / assess important information. So you're going to get a bunch of different resources, and you're going to have to assess them. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the slides. So we learned last week about the First Continental Congress and what the people did, the 12 colonies that met, excluding Georgia. And they came up with a couple of things. They said they're going to continue to boycott British goods. Along with that, they're going to prepare for war. Secondly, they wrote up what was known as the Declaration of Rights. You see that written here as well. And they were going to present that to King George and ask King George to give them what they wanted. And if he refused, they were going to meet up in May of 1775. Or, well, I didn't give you the date, but they were going to meet up next year. So the First Continental Congress was in October of 1774. And then they meet again in 1775. Obviously, King George did not, he refused to address the concerns listed in the Declaration of Rights. So they meet again. Georgia is excluded again. And this time the meeting had different results, all right? Some of the people called for peace again. Others were ready for war. And again, they compromise. They do a couple things. First thing they do, and I don't have it listed here, is they write up another kind of like peace treaty with King George, and they were going to present that to him. He obviously declines that one as well. But along with that, these are the 2 points that I want you to focus on. They also, this First Continental Congress created what is now, or what would be known as the Continental Army. And what that means is that you have these 12, 13 colonies along the eastern seaboard, and they're all acting on their independently. They're all acting independently. So they don't have like an army for all 13 colonies until this Second Continental Congress. So when the Second Continental Congress kind of united the colonies under one army, and they said, okay, we're going to create this Continental Army, and the person we're going to name in charge is George Washington. So George Washington became the general of that Continental Army. So a very important meeting. It created the Continental Army, and it named George Washington as the general. Okay. A little bit after that, about a half a year after that, Thomas Paine writes a pamphlet called Common Sense. Okay. And he writes it anonymously, which means that he didn't want credit for it at all. And it says, it does a couple things. Here's a quote from it. It says, "There is something very absurd in supporting a continent to be perpetually governed by an island," basically completely attacking Britain. And what this pamphlet does, what Common Sense ends up doing, is it educates the colonists. There were still, at this time, like we talked about, there were still colonists that were loyal to the British. And this pamphlet, Common Sense, turned a bunch of those loyalists to the colonist side. So now they're like, yeah, I agree. Why are we listening to this island across the sea? We shouldn't listen to them. And so it's 47 pages. It was distributed in January 1776. And it argued that the citizens, not kings or queens, should make laws. Okay, that's a big idea, because at this time there are monarchs, there are kings and queens all throughout the world. And Thomas Paine is basically saying that's wrong. The people should make the laws. And a lot of the colonists agreed, and they switched sides, and they stopped believing that the British were doing what was best for them. Okay. And so after that, like I said, the colonial leaders agreed as well with Paine. And later on in 1776, they all meet again, kind of the Second Continental Congress as well. And they formed what will be known as the Declaration of Independence. And that would be signed, as you all know, and it sets over here, July 4th, 1776. You're going to have a little assignment for that on Wednesday. So I'm not going too much into the Declaration of Independence. Along with that, they came up with a motto for the Union of the States, E Pluribus Unum, which you can now find on money and all kinds of other American documents. And what that statement basically means is out of many, one, because remember, like I said, the colonies are all separated. And now they're saying that they're going to unite the colonies. And if we go look back at what it means to resist, right? You need to educate yourself, you need to speak up, and you need to work together, okay? And they're doing all of these two things. They're educating themselves by reading these pamphlets like Thomas Paine's pamphlet and some of the other things that are happening at the time. They're speaking up by going to these different meetings, the Continental Congress, and telling the King George that there's a problem. And then they are now working together. They are uniting the colonies. So you do all of these things, and it's hard to have a resistance that fails when you do all of that. Okay, so that's what's happening. That's what's happening in the background. But throughout this whole time, I mean, if we look back at what happened on Thursday, when we were talking last Thursday about the Battle of Lexington and Concord, that happened in 1774. And as you can see right here, the Continental Congress met in May of 1775. This is June 1776. So during this time, in the kind of the background, George Washington is handling business. He's attacking the British, and the British are attacking him. So there's a lot of fighting going on. And that's what you're going to do today. For your work, is you're going to go through and you're going to read about some of the battles. And here's kind of a summary of this assignment. And you have access to this PDF if you want to go look at some of these different slides. So like it says here, there were more than 1,000 battles fought between the American and the British during this time. You could spend your whole life studying the Revolutionary War. However, you're just going to learn about 8 of them today through primary and secondary sources. So what you're going to do is you're going to read through the Revolutionary War battles section in your OneNote content library for each battle. I want you to learn when it happened, where it happened, the number of casualties, which side won, and why the battle is important to remember. All right. And then, like it says here, for each battle, there's one piece of information missing. Use the clues to find the information. Each clue will give you one piece of missing information. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. All right. So here is, first off, the assignment. Okay. If you click on your name, if you click on OneNote, click on Unit 3, Resistance, or click on your name, Unit 3, Resistance and Liberation, and then you find the 3/8 Revolutionary War Battles document. This is what it looks like. Okay. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Here's the document. And as you can see, this document has 8 cards. Each one of these cards, essentially, if this was like, if we were in class, I would have handed you like a little note cards to kind of guide your reading and all that. Am I in somebody's notebook, or did I just write something? Did I mess this up? Unconditionally surrendered and supported. Okay. Yeah. So you should have 8 of them here for the 8 battles. Okay. The first one that I shared with you is the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the one that we've learned a little bit about. And so this one has 2 blanks. You can see that it has date blanked. There's a blank for date, and then there's a blank for importance. The importance you should kind of know based on, if I go back here, based on your discussion. So the idea was, when I taught this to my students for Monday, is that they looked at, they took what they said for their discussion and they put it there. But I'm going to give it to you. All right. Why is this battle important? Because this is the first battle of the American Revolution. All right. So that's why it's important. And if you want to grab that, I can't post it in chat because obviously there's no chat, but you can go ahead and pause the video and then copy that down. All right. However, as you can see here, date is missing. And then if I scroll down, here's another battle, the Battle of Bunker Hill. Date is missing again. I scroll down to the Battle of Long Island. Importance is missing. So just like that document said here, for each battle, there is one piece of information missing. For this one, the winner is missing. For this one, the winner is missing as well. This one is missing casualties, location, and then this one's missing importance. So each one of these documents, now that we've filled out the importance of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, is missing one piece of information. So where are you going to get that information? You're going to go to the content library. Come on. Scroll down to Revolutionary War Battles, hopefully. And what you will see is a document that has a bunch of different clues. So clue 1 says a historical map of the Battle of Bunker Hill. So if I go back to my worksheet, look at this, Battle of Bunker Hill. So that clue right there is probably going to help me in some way fill in the date that is missing for Bunker Hill. I'm going to have to look for it. And when it says 1797 here, that is not the date I'm looking for. That's when this historical map was created. All right, so this map was created a little bit after the actual battle. All right, clue 2 says Battle of Trenton. If I go back to my sheet and I look for the Battle of Trenton, aha, look at that. So I might have to do a little bit of reading and figure out about putting my information there. So you're going to scroll through each one of these clues, read a little bit about each one of them, and try to fill in all the missing information on each one of these battle cards. All right. So by the time you're done, you should have all 8 of these cards completed. Okay. Once you finish that, all right, just a little bit more. There's the green section down here at the bottom. And what it says, and I actually created a page for this as well. It says Revolutionary War Battles Reflection. Use the information learned from the Revolutionary War Battles Challenge to answer the prompts in the green. So, and that's exactly what it says here. Compare the Battle of Trenton to the Battle of Saratoga. What are the similarities between those two battles? So I'm going to go up to my cards for Trenton and Saratoga, and I'm going to try to figure out what's similar between those two. So here's Trenton, and I think I passed Saratoga. And here's Saratoga. How are they similar? How are these two similar? Question 2, contrast the Siege of Charleston with the Battle of Cowpens. How are those two different? Then question 3, which battle was the most important victory for the British? This is a key right here, right? I'm not looking for the most important battle for the Americans. That's probably going to be the one where they won the war. What do you think? It's your opinion. What do you think is the most important battle for the British? And then lastly, which battle would you like to learn more about and why? All right. So there's our assignment for today. So from all of this, you should have kind of hopefully learned a little bit about the politics involved with the Second Continental Congress, Paine's Common Sense, and independence being declared. And then you should have these 2 assignments completed. Okay. So with that being said, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll try to answer them, but I will not be readily available. Okay. So I will see you all on Friday. You also have Wednesday work, so you need to look out for that as well. All right. Bye, everybody.